Welcome, readers. Today on Book Chat, joining me is my Buddy Reads co-host, Classy Green. We'll be discussing Local Woman Missing, written by Mary Kubica. Stay tuned. Today's episode is sponsored by The Black Kids, written by Christina Hammonds Reed. It's the Mocha Girls Read National Book Club's July Book of the Month. Visit their website and join in today. This coming-of-age debut novel explores issues of race, class, and violence through the eyes of a wealthy Black teenager whose family gets caught in the vortex of the 1992 Rodney King riots. Ashley Bennett and her friends are living the charmed life. It's the end of senior year. Everything changes one afternoon in April when 4 LAPD officers are acquitted after beating a Black man named Rodney King half to death. Suddenly, Ashley's just not one of the girls. She's one of the Black kids. As violent protests engulf LA and the city burns, Ashley tries to continue on as life were normal. With her world splintering around her, Ashley, along with the rest of LA, is left to question who is the us and who is the them. The Black Kids is available now. Pick up your copy wherever books and audiobooks are sold. Visit mochagirlsread.com to learn more about the book club and to read along with them. The links are in the show notes. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and thank you for downloading this month's Buddy Read discussion featured here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. If you're new here, every week we get bookish with book discussions, book reviews, shelf bites, and more. If you're wondering what is a Buddy Read, this is a feature where Classy and I select a thriller or mystery title that we both are interested in. Then we have a candid conversation about that book or audiobook. We even discuss it in our Facebook group, Shelf Addiction Official, during a live chat. So grab a glass of wine, a cocktail, a cup of tea or coffee, whatever your drink of choice is, and settle in for this fun discussion. As always with book chats, there is a spoiler alert in effect, so you've been warned. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with your book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. That will really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing it. The uncut video version of this podcast is available now on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including this podcast after show. If you'd like to support the show in other ways, please consider doing that by supporting our sponsors. By supporting them, you are supporting us. Check out all of the sponsors at shelfaddiction.com/sponsors. If you've read the book or listened to the audiobook and would like to weigh in on this conversation, be sure to join the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official. I hope to hear your thoughts on this discussion. Links for everything I've mentioned are in the show notes, so let's get going. We've got a lot to cover today, so we're going to jump right on in. Joining me is the Buddy Read feature co-host Classy Green from the Bookish Virtual Assistant. Welcome back, Classy.
Hi, Tamara. Hello, everyone.
Hey, how are you today? How are you doing on this hot day?
I'm doing well. Just trying to stay cool, I guess I could say. Hope you are too, because I know It's hot where you are.
Yes, I'm over here sweating a little bit, but I'll get through it. As we always do, we're going to go ahead and give you guys the stats and the synopsis, and then we'll just jump into the conversation. So today we are talking about Local Woman Missing, written by Mary Kubica. It was published May 18th by Park Row. And let's see, the audiobook was published by Harlequin Audio on the same date. The audio length is 11 hours and 40 minutes. And the narrators are Brittany Presley, Jennifer Jill Araya, Gary Tiedemann, Jesse Valinsky. I hope that's right, Valinsky. So there were a lot of narrators with all interesting names, and this is going to be a good time. So, Classy, why don't you go ahead and tell us what the book was about?
Okay. Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. People don't just disappear without a trace. Shelby Tebow is the first to go missing, not long after Meredith Dickey and her 6-year-old daughter Delilah vanished just blocks away from where Shelby was last seen, striking fear into their once peaceful community. Are these incidents connected? After an elusive search that yields more questions than answers, the case eventually goes cold. Now, 11 years later, Delilah shockingly returns. Everyone wants to know what happened to her, but no one is prepared for what they'll find.
All right.
That's it. I think that's a pretty good synopsis.
Yes, I agree with you. And I have to say, it's been a long time for me since I've read a book by Mary Kubica. I think it was her first book that came out, The Good Girl, like a really long time ago. And then I read another one of her books. What was it? I can't think of the title. A couple of years ago, because she's been putting them out pretty regularly.
Every Last Lie.
Yeah. So I read that, and I wasn't really that impressed. But I'm like, well, this one, the synopsis looks good. The early reviews look good. So let's give it a try.
Yes. Right. I think the last one I read is Don't You Cry. Yeah. It's been a while since I read one as well.
Okay. So were you like enjoying this one, or how we...
I really was. Yes. I really, like, right from the beginning, I was on the edge of my seat. I guess that's the best way to say it, but I was on the edge of my seat. She drew me in immediately.
Yes. I think the first 2 chapters were really, they got you. So, like, it started out where I think it was the very second chapter, we switch points of view. That's one thing. This book switches the POV, present and past tense, for multiple characters.
Yeah.
So that either can hit or miss. I think in this case, she did it well. And once I settled into it, I was good. But I guess one of the very first chapters is when Delilah, the child that is missing, she's been gone like 10 years. She's in this basement, and it sounds like a horror story. It's so awful. It's like, I was biting my nails almost. I don't bite my nails, but if I did, I would have been biting them.
Yeah. I felt the same way. I didn't want to stop listening. It was just one of those things where I was like, okay, whatever I'm doing, let me take the phone with me, put in my headphones, whatever. I'm cleaning up with it. But I think you even said that when you started it, you didn't want to stop. But because we don't like to like read the book too far in advance, so it could be fresh on our minds. But you were like, I don't want to stop. So I was like, okay. I got started, and I was like, now I see what she was talking about.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's like, I love when a book grabs me out the gate like that, and I was grabbed. She did it.
Yeah, and I think too, we have been waiting for something like this. I mean, granted, Pretty Little Wife, or was it Pretty Little Wife? Was that the title? That was probably one of our, better books of the year. So, but we had some, so 2 little flops, I think, in between. So to have this is for the summer, it was great.
Yeah.
Much needed.
Absolutely. So this is a good pick overall. There's a lot to get into. I don't want to... where should we start? Okay. There's so much, you guys. Okay, so let's, I guess, break down the main characters. Let's do that first, since there's so many of them.
Okay.
So the main characters, in my opinion, were Kate, Meredith, Josh, B, Delilah, and Leo. Those were the main characters, I think.
I agree.
So Meredith and Josh Dickey are married. Their children are Delilah and Leo. Kate and B are married. They are next door neighbors. Other characters that have some face time, but they are not narrators, are Shelby and Jason Tebow. They have, significant roles, but they do not have any narration of their own. So let's talk about Meredith and Josh. So we go back 11 years. And we really learn about them. And I have to say, Meredith is not the business.
She's a little flighty. And the more I got further into the story, all I could think of, and I hate comparing stories, but our last story, I was like, here we go. Another flighty wife and a super nice husband. And it was like, oh God. Because I mean, he was perfect. He did everything right. Made her coffee in the morning, told her, I love you, was concerned. And, she didn't start off flighty. I'll say that. At the beginning of the story, we didn't know how flighty she was. Well, I didn't feel like she seemed flighty at the beginning. Towards the end of the story, we really began to see that she had, like you said, no backbone. But there, what was she, like a yoga instructor and doula? And she was a doula. Yeah. So they were a nice little couple who lived in a little small town in Illinois, which, by the way, I live in Illinois. So I was looking up Michael, Illinois, and the population. And I was like, okay, I need to look up Mary Kubica to see where she grew up too. Or
she lives in the Chicago area.
Okay. All right. Because I was like, not too many people were right about Michael, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So Meredith, okay, so this woman, on the good side, I could tell that Meredith and Josh, they loved each other. You could tell that they actually did. Yeah. They were in for that relationship. They were down to they were in it. And so that threw me when Meredith was so, what is the word I'm looking for? She was so hesitant to tell her husband anything important. If it was important and could affect her livelihood, she didn't want to tell him because she thought he'll try to make me change my job or quit being a doula. So that was her main concern. But I'm like, girl, if you had told him, you might be alive today.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think too, I mean, that was like a catch-22 because it's like, yeah, she would have been alive. But I think it was like that sense of autonomy is what she wanted because he did want her to be a stay-at-home mother. And then like when Shelby went missing, he wanted to get, Captain Sava, I won't call her a captain, Superman, super husband. I want you to take a cab to work. You can't drive, and I think that's where that came in. And it was like, because because Cassandra didn't have autonomy, but she did like the fact that she had her own career. Mm-hmm. And yeah, but like you said, if you loved him that much in the trust circle that you two have, or, that relationship, she could have told him that. Because it was a domino effect. It just kept going.
Absolutely.
The lawsuit, the something else. Oh, her not telling him about her relationship with Shelby, which I think was important because she never told him before.
Oh, Marty. Cassandra and Marty, those are another set of neighbors. So Marty, she had an years old relationship with him that she kept to herself. She didn't tell him about the text messages.
Right. Marty was her first love.
Which she basically then later says, I should not say that because that really wasn't the case.
Well, yeah. And when you're in college, and I mean, he was the one she lost her virginity to. So you would consider that first, you know what I mean, when you're that age. But when she said he was, first love or whatever to the wife, woo, she was like, I won't say that again. No. I will make sure I use the correct term when I tell my husband, because if she acted like that, I can imagine how Josh would act.
And she kind of explains it. Okay, so you guys, she's getting these threatening text messages. You deserve to go to hell. You should die. Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, at first, if I got some messages like that, I'm like, and I know I didn't do anything to anybody, I would have been like, what the hell's going on? Number one. But she's going about her day just trying to ignore the messages. She's clearly scared. But it turns out to be her neighbor, Cassandra, who happens to be the mother of her daughter's best friend. Right. Is Cassandra threatening her because she found out that she had a relationship with her husband, like Classy said, back in college when they were babies, basically.
Yeah.
And the woman, for whatever reason, could not get it through her head that they are not sleeping together now. But I guess he was sleeping around, and she just assumed it was Meredith.
Them too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I think I would have too if you guys. So, and that was something I was going to ask you. So if you came across, you know, your neighbor in an old photo album with your husband from, you know, their alma mater, and you find out they had a relationship and nobody said anything, and he's dipping out, would you think it was her too?
I would. My first instinct would be that, especially since they decided not to tell me, you know, that would be my first instinct. But in that scene, I do believe that Meredith was very clear. She was very clear. It's not me. It's not me. I don't know what's happening, but it's not me. And I believed if Meredith was in my face telling me that, I would not be still acting berserk. I feel like I would believe her about that. But I would still have a bone to pick with her anyway, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it does. It absolutely does make sense. But then I go back to here you have Cassandra, who doesn't have a sense of autonomy in her life. She's a stay-at-home mom. And her only chance, I mean, and this is where I loved how Mary Kubica set this up. Her only chance to get out is when her husband comes home, you know, after work, and she's running errands and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, then she comes back because she forgot, can't remember what she forgot. No, she didn't forget her keys. Maybe her phone or her grocery list. And her husband says, you got to go out again. And she's like, this is my only chance. And I love that scene because it paved the way for this scene with Meredith and Cassandra, where, you know, you would think she would understand, but here, you know, it's that the tale of two lives. Here, Cassandra has basically two damn jobs. Mm-hmm. Meredith has two jobs. Cassandra doesn't have any, and here Meredith, you know, two jobs, and is always asking Meredith to watch the babies. So, you know, I was like, she weaved a good little tale there, and she set up scenes that were perfect. Yes. For, you know, for the climax, for the build up. Because like you said, and maybe just because of, as a reader, I would have believed her too, the way she said it, but just knowing her situation as a stay-at-home mom who doesn't get to do anything but watch this man's kids, knowing that he's doing something. Yeah. You struggle with belief.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, so that part was important, but it was really a throwaway.
Yeah, so it was.
It was like a red herring, I guess. You know, oh, the text messages, we think something has to do with something else, and it really doesn't. So ultimately that went nowhere. But it was resolved. We understood what happened. But I like that, because at first we were like, what is happening? What is this?
Yeah. Yeah. So wait, can I ask a little question?
Yeah.
I mean, okay. And just see if you thought this too, or maybe that's a plot hole, or do you want to like save that? I can write it down and we can talk about plot holes later.
I didn't write them out separately, so I guess we could just take them as they come up.
Okay. So Marty was cheating. He was going out in the middle of the night, having an affair with somebody. Did you think it was him and Shelby?
You know what? I didn't at first, but now I do.
Yeah.
Now I do.
Yeah. And I know it seems weird, but and then at the end of the story, they never brought it up. All they brought up was Grace lived with her real father. But we never did find out, like, did Cassandra take on Grace, or did Cassandra leave Marty and Marty just wind up taking care of his child by himself? But it hit me that he was going out at night the same time Shelby was going out at night. And then the time when Meredith came to the house and he basically was like, Shelby, you gonna bring me my drink? And it wasn't. And
he was rude and abrasive like he was to his own wife.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was like, waiting, like, somebody please tell me that Grace is Marty's child, but she left it up to our imagination. But I wonder if you got that. So
it makes sense because also Cassandra and Marty moved right away soon as they disappeared. They moved really quickly.
Yep, they sure did. So I was just like, okay, what is going on?
Yeah.
But she never wrapped it up, but I was just wondering if you noticed that. So okay.
Yeah, I did.
Back to the regular program.
Yeah. Because it was a good catch, I'm telling you. At first I was like, well, who was the guy? But all the things connected, and I bet the author would tell us you are right.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah. I was like waiting, come on, tell us who's the dad. Because remember, they took a blood test. They found out he wasn't the father. I mean, that Josh, is that his name?
Jason Tebow.
Jason wasn't the father. Right. Yeah. So, okay.
That's why I had to write it down, because there's a Jason and a Josh, and I'm like, why are there two J names? That is what I dislike. Yeah.
I hate when they
don't do that. Because I'm like, wait,
or rhyming names.
Yes.
Ooh. Okay. That's one of those things. Right? If you could ask an author anything, that would be one of those things. Why did you name these people this? Why do their names rhyme? Why are they so close?
Because Jason and Josh, their names come up a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be as bad while reading it, but listening is hard.
Well, I still think even reading it might be easier. You're right. It might be easier. But there was
just because of the spelling. Just because of the spelling.
Yeah. There was one part where they were talking about Jason, and I said, wait. Or Jason said something, and I said, wait. Did Josh say that or Jason said that? I was like confused for a minute. I was like, wait. I had to go back and said, who said that?
Right.
Because I thought I heard something else, and then I was like, okay. And that is when I went through and started writing down the couples and their offspring so I could get it right.
Did a little family tree, ma'am.
Basically, I was like, line down. I sure did. Yes, I did.
Yeah, there were some times where I had to rewind too, because I too thought Jason said something and it was Josh, especially like during, we won't even go there, but yes, I was confused a few times.
Mm-hmm. So we just told you guys that the whole Cassandra text messaging thing was a thing. So another thing that was like a conspiracy about, where did she go? How did she die? Who killed her? Is like, so she was a doula, and she had a really, really horrible experience with this one doctor who was the doctor of her client, who is Shelby, which is also something we didn't know at first. We did not know that Meredith and Shelby knew each other because she helped her give birth to her baby. But this doctor, what's this doctor's name? I wrote his name down. Where is my
Feingold? Feingold. Dr. Feingold.
This guy is the fucking worst.com. I was getting visibly angry reading some of these scenes. So, yeah.
I had trigger moments. Yeah. And she did a damn good job of making you feel like, how would I explain this? That many women have experienced that, but didn't realize they experienced that or they had rights. I'm just going to like preface that before you get to your, you know, your explanation of the asshole.
Well, you know what, this made me think maybe this was by design, kind of like it had a double thing here, like, you know, women need to know about this stuff, so it was kind of like a handy way to talk about something that's serious while also kind of giving another red herring kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think it was the doctor. I never did. I thought that was like a stupid path to go down. But that's why I thought, well, maybe it was more there. You know what I mean? Like maybe the author really wanted people to talk about this issue, because you can't help but talk about this issue seeing these scenes. So there were two scenes that were very jarring. The first scene was, I think the first scene was actually Kate's scene. I think Kate's scene came first. So Kate, she is the neighbor, and she started kind of doing her own kind of impromptu investigation on her own. So she feels, after talking to Jason Tebow and finding out that there is a lawsuit, that it must be something up with the doctor. So they filed a malpractice suit against this doctor. So she went to check out the doctor. So she pretends she's pregnant, gets an appointment to the gynecologist, to this guy, and goes. And this appointment is the fucking worst. The fucking worst. I thank the Lord I have never had an appointment like that, because I would go on any medical website. You know how that you can rate a doctor's office? Right. I'd be all around the world writing every nasty thing I could write on every website and found a new doctor if this happened to me. So he was very nonchalant. He didn't warn her what he was going to do before he did it. He talked down to her. He was very abrasive. And that was just the tip of the iceberg, because the second scene is when Shelby gives birth. Oh my God. Okay, so this scene, I don't even have kids, and I was fucking traumatized. I'm like, you know what? I made a good choice not having kids if this shit happens to people. So,
yeah, it was hard. It was hard to listen to, but it brought back. My first child was born with forceps, and I do not remember being asked or told. You know, he was a bigger baby, first baby. But yeah, he was delivered with forceps. He had the little misshapen head, thank God. And then when I'm listening that this child had seizures and brain, and I'm like, I'm not kidding, Tamara. I was like, thank God that my child did not have any abnormalities or, and I was cut. I was not told I was going to be cut. Yeah, it was just a lot. So I think too, with Meredith being a doula, that the author did decide to kind of show the importance of a doula, because so many times prior, I'll just say, in my generation or during the time when I was having a baby, doulas, they may have been around, but they weren't as popular. And I didn't have an advocate. And there's been many women who have, especially Black women, who have died in childbirth because of, different things like that. And, someone not listening because I'm the expert. I know, you know what I mean? Because I remember with my first child, my doctor was on vacation because my first child, James came early. And so I had a fill-in doctor who was not as nice as my regular doctor. He was short. He basically almost felt like I was wasting his time, or I won't say wasting his time, but I had interrupted his schedule. I don't know if he was on a damn golf course or whatever, but he was mean. He was short with me. My contractions, it was, they're not that bad, or that's what happens when you have a baby. It just felt like that. So I had many flashbacks with this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of good to hear this, because if my daughter does decide to have a child, we will not go through that. I will make sure she does not go through that.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important, like, even starting out, like, not to get off on this tangent, but all women need to go see a gynecologist regularly. Even if you're not active, you need to go, because if you don't, cervical cancer is a real thing, and you don't have to be sexually active to get it.
Yep.
So you need to go.
And you could be asymptomatic. You just never, there's so many things with any diseases, but especially some female diseases, you're asymptomatic.
Right. So when you go to these appointments, you need to pay attention to the doctor you have. Do you like he or she? If not, get the hell out of there and get someone you like. Because guess what? More than likely, if you get pregnant and you choose, most practices also have, doctors that specialize in, that part of it, the pregnancy part, right? So it's more likely you'll get a doctor that's also good if they're in the same practice. You don't have to walk in and try to find a stranger off the street when you get pregnant. You should already have a family of doctors at your disposal by the time you get there, hopefully. And if not, guess what? I know people that have switched doctors in the middle of their pregnancy, and that's okay too.
Yep. Yeah. And times have changed so much that that is the norm. It does, thank God that the times have changed. There's no stigma with that of leaving in the middle. Somebody's going to get to know you all over. That is, get to know me is so minute in this whole thing of me having a baby and getting to know me. It doesn't need that. You don't need because that long.
I can guarantee you, like, honestly, women just want a healthy baby. And that is what the author says. Most women deal with anything because they just want a healthy baby. But because of that, you need to inform them. Because I know for sure I would rather take being cut than I would rather have a cesarean than use forceps. And if there was time to do it, you should have done the cesarean. Yeah. I'll take the L, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Not the child. Yep. And I think most mothers would do that. Like, if that's the choice, we'll do the cesarean. Don't just do that without telling people what the risks are of doing it. How dare you?
Yeah. Yep.
But now people have birth plans. They have backup to the backup to the backup, right? That they talk about with their doctors.
Mm-hmm.
I only know this because my sister had a baby a couple years ago,
Oh, so that's good.
Yeah, so you have a backup to the backup to the backup plan, right? So assuming that nothing goes left at the last moment, you kind of know what you're in for. So with that said, we'll put that part to bed. But geez, oh Pete, my gosh. So that guy was dreadful, but he wasn't the killer.
No. He was just an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, it didn't go anywhere, but I'm glad she did put that in there for some readers who may need to hear that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so those were two red herrings. And so we never said how what's her face died, how Meredith died. But we didn't know until the end how she died. We were just told it was suicide. We were told it was suicide for most of the book until the reveal.
Yeah.
So what happens? Let's talk about that morning.
Or we even talk about Shelby dying too? Did we talk about that?
Well, that's what kicked off that whole let me go see this doctor. So Shelby died. Like, she was kidnapped or yanked. Well, okay.
Right, it's like, do we talk about how Meredith died, or we talking about Shelby first?
Okay. They go together. I
know.
Shelby was the catalyst, so let's talk about Shelby first. Shelby was the catalyst. So
Okay.
Shelby at the beginning, we see her like, I think she's like talking to somebody, or she's doing something she's not supposed to be doing. She's out the house, and like at
Oh,
the
you know
very
what?
very
She
beginning
went
of the book.
jogging. Right.
Yes.
She went jogging. Her husband gets off work late, and soon as he comes home, that's her only time to jog because she just has a newborn.
Right. And okay, so in that scene, and I did not go back and listen to it again, but in that scene, there is a mention of a car in that scene.
That's right. It does, because she said she hears it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not sure, but she hears the car. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So everyone thinks that Shelby has been snatched and she's missing. That's what everyone thinks. And then, of course, the first person they look at when a woman disappears is the husband, which is rightfully so. Usually it's someone you know, right? But in this case, we just gonna tell it, right? We're gonna tell it.
You've been warned.
Okay.
Spoilers.
So in this case, she actually wasn't snatched. She was hit by a car. And who hit her? I don't want to tell you, but I need to tell you. Who hit her was B. So B, okay, now, we didn't really talk about B that much. I mentioned her earlier. B is Kate's wife. She and Kate are in that same neighborhood with the rest of them. B was out drinking with Meredith, and she is intoxicated and runs down Shelby. That is what happened to Shelby. And then B and Meredith proceed to put her body in the trunk, take her to the woods, half-ass bury her, and leave her. And take her clothes for good measure.
Yep.
In a nutshell.
Right, because they were trying to make it seem like she was sexually assaulted. And sexually assaulted usually means a man. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. B was...
She was wild.
B, I mean, in the whole time, B is not a narrator. She doesn't have a POV. It's her wife, Kate, does. But, which again, I'll give Miss Kubika credit on who again, and another question, why did you pick these people to have POVs and not other people? But Kate had a story to tell, B didn't. So everything that we learned about B, we heard from Kate. She was strong, she was tall, she was kind of elusive, but in control. But the in control that we heard from about B from Kate's point of view was she liked things done in a certain way, and it wasn't a bad in control until she killed Shelby, and we got to see what kind of control B.
Right.
Woo!
So we also even got a little bit from Meredith, because when they were out drinking, she was saying, wow, B dresses like this. She has the confidence to wear that.
Yes.
And can pull it off. And, they had a good time laughing and dancing. And, she just really thought she was a cool chick. And the whole thing...
and that she was strong. Yeah, compared to her. Yep.
Yeah. And the whole thing was just killing me the whole time, because the whole time we're going to tell you what happened. We're going to tell you exactly what happened and how it happened. But the whole time during this process leading into what happened to Meredith kept saying, B's just scared. She kept defending her. She's just scared. Okay, girl. Okay. All right, girl.
I mean, granted, she was. Who wouldn't be scared? You just bulldoze somebody. Not just that, you were drunk driving, and then you killed somebody. So yeah, she was scared, but
I feel like she was more than scared. She was scared and diabolical, because she thought of that definitely. Real fast. Drunk, she thought what to do.
Man, And that's why I was saying how she flipped it. Like, it was the control thing, but all of a sudden it was like, she was just it was like the cutthroatness of her was, how, you know what? This is what it reminds me of. Like, you see somebody and you kind of see glimpses, and then all of a sudden they're real, but they hold it down or they tamper it down. Like, they can't see that. And then when that happened, she couldn't hold that back anymore. It's like she's been living this life of, I'm the perfect, not the perfect wife, but I'm calm. I'm this, and that. And then soon as this situation happens, the real B is revealed.
She flips
that's exactly
out.
Yeah,
and,
the real, that's who she was all the damn time.
Yes.
We just never knew it.
Yes.
And neither did her wife.
No, she didn't. She sure didn't.
Nope.
It was Agatha all along. If y'all watch Marvel, you know where that's from.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of. Is like, this woman has been, and then like when she flipped the script like that, you start going back through her story, throughout, you kind of flash back to her scenes with getting mad at Kate for calling making an appointment with the doctor, how she had the relationship with Leo, when they went to visit Jason, just all these different things. And it's like, ooh, like you said, diabolical.
Mm-hmm.
To the T.
Y'all. There's a lot more to talk about. We're going to break it down for you right after this break. It's time for a break. So check out the sponsors, listen to the commercials that help support the show, check out the merch store, all that fun stuff, and we'll be right back. Today's episode is sponsored in part by audiobooks.com. Audiobooks.com now has 175,000 titles and 1.2 million podcasts. New customers get 3 free audiobooks comprised of 1 premium credit and 2 VIP titles. Use our promo code SHELFADDICTION, spelled as one word, when you sign up at audiobooks.com. Again, our promo code is SHELFADDICTION. And we're back. We're going to jump right back in. So let's get right back into it. So we're going to tell you exactly what happened to Meredith first. And then I think after that, the domino would be what happened and where has Delilah been and why rescuing Delilah was another red herring. Okay. So we just told you that B killed Shelby. And she framed Jason Tebow by placing the clothes she took off the body near his job, like near a dumpster at his job. So this dude was in jail for 11 years, almost 11 years, because they thought, hey, he did it. He did. But anyway, so they take the body. After they take the body, the whole time, well, first, Meredith, to her defense, she was like, let's just call the police. She could be alive, la, la, la. She's like, no, she's not. She's dead. Put her in this trunk. So she helps her put her in the trunk. And then she hears something back there as they're driving. She's like, maybe she's alive back there. And Via's like, no, bitch, she's not. She's dead. Sit down and shut up.
I checked her pulse.
Yes.
Even though I don't think she did. But yeah, I mean, the thing is I think she really was, because when she said the woman's arms were like goalposts, I was like, yeah, she gone. Yeah. All I could think was like, yeah, she gone.
Yeah. So after all of that, so they get rid of the body, like we said. They come back to the neighborhood. They're driving B's car. She realizes there's blood back here. We need some bleach. Meredith, like, oh, I got bleach in my garage. They tiptoe over there. And to an earlier scene where we hear, I think it was Cassandra telling the police that she saw someone in Meredith's yard, but she couldn't see who it was. It was too dark.
You know what she saw them. You know what? It wasn't the police she told that.
No, she told Kate. She told Kate. She told Kate.
She told Kate and B.
And B.
Yep, because remember they were going door to door,
Yes.
trying to look. Yeah, I forgot
Yes.
about that.
So that same door-to-door circle, when they found out from Jason about the lawsuit, they also found out about somebody sneaking in the yard. So, so that's an interesting callback. I'm like, oh, she saw B and Meredith out there. So after that, she's like, give me your clothes. And I'm like, she yelling at her and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh. So Meredith takes off her clothes, gives them to B. She don't even question the woman anymore. She just follows orders. I'm like, oh, you a dumb one. But okay. Okay.
I mean, come on now. This Meredith was like 100 pounds soaking wet. And all I could think of is B was like Amazon. I mean, she wasn't huge, but she was strong.
Yes.
She was, yeah.
I don't know. I grabbed the knife and be like, I'm gonna shank you. Okay, so especially after.
Yeah, I was like that too. I was like, nah.
Like, bitch,
it's do or die. And I'm going down swinging.
Yes, and especially so after this, of course, Meredith carries extreme guilt. She's constantly thinking about Shelby to the point where this woman goes to the store and buys a blanket, goes back to the crime scene, and covers the body with a blanket. Like, really? You think that's going to help your conscience? Okay. Again, dumb move. Okay. Yeah. Whatever.
Anything to make you feel better, I guess.
But it didn't make her feel better. It did not help.
No.
So, day after day, B comes to Meredith's house and she's like, kind of like under the guise of being friendly, but she's checking to make sure she still got her shit together. And
wait, hold on. You thought she was under the disguise of being friendly? Hell no.
Like, you know.
That bitch wasn't trying to be friendly. She was like, hey girl, what you doing?
Hey girl.
In other words, you ain't, this is how I felt.
Nothing,
she was like, you ain't said shit, did you? Because if you did, she was like, this is.
Yeah, I got my eyes on you. Yes.
What you been up to? You ain't been to work, have you? Oh.
Yeah.
You been acting a fool. You haven't been acting normal.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
That wasn't
every
friendly.
time. And I'm like, Meredith, again, not the sharpest tool in the box. Like, that's like one of these like tools that authors use for these people because she was not smart. Because every time she would see B, okay, she would hold it in all day. Her husband knows something is off. He's asking her, what's wrong? Nothing. When she sees B, she just has diarrhea of the mouth. I can't do this. Why do we do that? And B looking at her like, bitch, I'll take you out. Shut up. So
I was like, slap her.
Yeah.
Please slap the shit out of her. Like, snap out of it. We just killed somebody, bitch. Even though we didn't. But, but since you were there, it's we.
Yeah. So then I feel like B changes her approach after she figures out that Meredith is not changing. She's not going with the plan. She starts saying, we killed someone. We are both going down. I'm like, girl, that was you. You killed her.
And you know what the funny thing is that she never said that. She never said, we. I was driving the car. No, Meredith says, you know what? I'll take the blame.
Yeah.
I'll say that I was driving. I was like, hell no, I got the kids. Your ass killed her.
Look, you went from like improperly disposing of a body and covering up a crime to murder. Why would you take responsibility for that? Girl, no.
No, I am not cleaning Big Bertha's drawers in the toilet. You by yourself.
And that is why me and a person like B would never be friends. Because I'm like, look here, girl. Let's not get it twisted. You killed that woman. Yes, I am going to jail for what I did do, but you're the murderer, not me. Let's get it clear.
For one, I would never, after knowing, and granted, this is because this is how I would have written the story because of who I am, and you probably would have agreed. I wouldn't, after I realized what type of person B was, after she hit Shelby, I wouldn't have said shit to her. I wouldn't have said a damn thing to B. I'd have went to the police by myself, I'd have been acting normal because this woman, I see she's diabolical. Oh, okay. I see how she is. I won't let her know anything. But no, she has diarrhea of the mouth, like you says. She tells her, why don't we do this? How about this grand scheme? Meredith, don't you remember the woman said that she does not want to go to jail? Her wife will not be there for her. This woman was scared for her life. Why would you even say those type of things to a person like that? You were digging your grave. You're digging your own grave now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. And then I'm thinking too, here you are, this grandmother, or she wasn't thinking. I'm just thinking, I have a family and I'm not going to jail for her, for B's actions.
For somebody so smart, she is dumb. Again, it's like they like to make these characters dumb as possible. It's like,
yeah,
that's the one thing that I had a problem with Meredith. I couldn't relate to her because of the stupidity of the things she was doing. I could not understand. It was
continuous.
You got caught up in this. Stand up for yourself, okay? Like, really. And if you didn't,
even if you lose,
yes. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember or if you were raised like that, but my mother told me I better fight. Even if I lose, they're going to know that we were fighting. Someone's going to realize I'm not bowing down. I'm going down hard. We on the ropes to the very end. I am not about to, whatever you say.
Right. Nope. Yeah. So after all that, of course, obviously, B is not going to let that slide. So the last straw was her trying to get her to go to the police one last time. I'll take the blame one last time. Lord. So that morning, as we found out earlier in the day, her daughter was homesick that day. She had a fever. So she goes out to find her phone out the garage. B comes strolling up into the garage. Like, girl, what are you doing in here? Get out. That's why I've been like, why are you in my space? I would have walked out of there and left that damn phone. But instead, B is kind of coming up on her, and she trying to reach for the phone that she could tell is nearly dead.
Hey, girl, what you doing?
What you doing?
You ain't going to work in a couple of days. Hey, girl.
You know what I'm not doing?
Creepy as fuck.
I know. I'm not turning my back on your crazy ass. That's what I'm not doing.
Thank you. Exactly. Exactly.
Gosh.
That's what I'm talking about. Once I realize you crazy as hell, no. No. I'm never alone. I'm watching my back. This is the thing. The way she was watching her back in that parking garage with the text messages, that's how she should have been acting with B.
Because what did B do? She picked up a weapon and cold clocked her in the back of her head. And who sees it but little Delilah? She's like, Mommy, the remote doesn't work or some mess. And then she just cold clocks the woman right in front of her daughter. Like, dang, okay. Okay, so, oh my God. Yeah. So what does she do? Throw her in the back of the car. Throw her in the back seat. At least not the trunk. At least she didn't put her in the trunk. She put her in the back seat. But
yeah.
So apparently that didn't kill her. Because, I mean, there's this whole thing, remember? We're like, oh, she committed suicide. So clearly that's not suicide. Yeah. But she gets her to the hotel, this like dirtbag place hotel. Tells her to rent a room for a month. And this fool does it. Again. You gonna do it. You're just gonna do what she says.
Oh, why am I doing this?
Right.
Then why am I writing a note?
Had her write a note. It's basically saying, don't worry about my daughter. She's safe. And what she do? She goes, and this is also tells me bad police work on two accounts, which we'll talk about later. But you can't tell if somebody else slit someone's wrist in that, like, you can't tell if someone else did that from the angles. Have you watched CSI? You can tell the angles.
And how many people commit suicide stabbing themselves in the stomach?
Right. So she sliced something first, and then she stabbed her in the stomach, right?
Yeah, that was one of the things that I felt that was like, okay, Mary, you went a little too far.
But I'm like, okay. So she leaves the woman in the hotel room, goes back. She put the kid in her. Okay, this is another gripe. Okay, she puts Delilah in her freaking studio. Okay, in her music studio that is soundproof. Okay, now this kid's up there for 11. So I got two things, actually. So she puts the kid in her studio and keeps her there for 11 years. And she's growing up seeing her family next door, and they can't hear her or see her because she has this little peephole. But let me go back. So first, my problem is, okay, Kate, now you are the dummy, because this reminds me of another book I read that I was telling you about by Rachel Kane, where the wife comes home and she finds out that her husband is a serial killer, and he was killing women in his garage that she did not have access to.
I read that book, yeah.
Yes. So I'm like, first off, there is never a place on this shared property that I don't have access to. Let me tell you that. If my husband had an external office in a garage or a built pole barn or whatever, I'm like, you mean to tell me you haven't once had dinner ready and needed to go get them? You haven't once needed to say, oh, I need to find a place for these extra Christmas decorations. Let me put them in that room up there. You not once had a need to go in that place? No.
Well, yeah. I mean, the studio, I don't know.
The studio's on the bottom. She had the girl on the top level
in
of
the attic part.
Yes.
And she's like, I never had any reason to go up there.
You're a dummy. And let me tell you, everybody that's listening to the sound of my voice right now, if you have a spouse or significant other that has space that is off limits to you, you might be in a little bit of danger. You might be in a little bit of trouble.
And that's the thing. Was it off limits or did the second time it was after the girl went missing, or she put her up there. But my thing is, I don't think it was off limits. I think Kate just never had a desire or a need to go up there. And I think that's why B felt like it was so easy for her to put Delilah there, because she knew Kate didn't even go out there.
Well, remember, her explanation was after Shelby disappeared, she said something about people breaking in. That was her excuse to change the locks. That was B's excuse. So she changed the locks and just never gave her another key. And Kate never asked. She never asked.
But the thing is that I felt like Kate never went up there anyway. So why, you know what I mean? It's just,
which is dumb.
Yeah. But she just never had a desire to go up there. So I felt like it was easy for B to use that excuse of, I changed the key, or it only came with one lock. I'll get you a new one. And she knew Kate wasn't going to ask about her. Nope.
But that makes me question Kate and B's relationship, because if B is this musician and that is her passion, that is what she loves, why would I not go in there and hang out with her a little bit? Even if it's once in a blue moon, right? Why would I want to hear some of her music? Like, what kind of relationship is that? That's weird.
True. So, but they were they say opposites attract. But then it was like, what did the woman do?
She did
Did she have a damn job? Right.
She sat
there. You have this veterinarian, and she up there in the studio producing music.
She's another reason raising a child in secret.
Another reason to be in that damn room. You don't have a fucking job. You don't have a job. What the hell are you doing out here?
Right.
All while I work.
Right.
Again, like you said,
out of here.
People, if you hear the sound of our voice and you have a spouse who is in a room or in the garage and you don't know what the fuck they doing, check
it out. For your own safety, check it out.
Just be inquisitive. Just do it. I mean, it could be nothing. I'm not to say he's got a body out there, but what the fuck you doing?
And look, and it's not even about being nosy. It's on your property. And honestly, God,
I'm sorry,
that is why.
I'm being nosy if I pay the bills. I'm not being nosy. That's just like you telling me, my kid, I can't go in your room.
Exactly. You just live here. This is my house. But that is exactly why something like that would never happen to reasonable people. Because let me just tell you, I just bust up in the room. I bust up in there. What you doing? You know?
Kicking doors open.
Yes.
What do you mean? What? This door don't... Matter of fact, you if I can't get in there, I'm not asking for a key. I'm going to figure out how to get in there. Because for one, if I don't have a key and you said you had a key or going to give me a key, now I really am suspicious.
Yep.
Or is that just because we read too many mystery novels?
Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe I watch too much true crime. I don't know that too. I'll be like, like, no way. You're not getting over on me. I'm a dummy.
Something is behind this door because he's too secretive.
Yes. Okay. So now that we found out who actually did the killing and who had Delilah, let's go back to Delilah, because at the very beginning, Delilah escapes this torturous situation. Delilah in air quotes. And the reveal, so Leo, her younger brother by 2 years, he has a narration in this book as well. And clearly, I don't begrudge him any of his feelings. He has, he seems like a reasonable kid for all the stuff he's been through. It seems like his father basically just left him raise himself, basically, after his wife died and his daughter went missing. So, he's not close to his sister. He feels weird about her, and he doesn't really know why.
Yeah. Right. Even though she was missing, he had no connection. Yeah. Even after 11 years, I mean, yeah, he did. He was just like really standoffish to her, and like, who is Hopper? Who this woman?
Right. So over the course of the week, this book takes course over a week after, and of course in the past, right? So present day is a week. So of course, one of the little girls, Lily. It's not Lily. Charlotte. No, not Charlotte. What's the girl's name?
Piper.
Charlotte's the babysitter.
Piper?
Yeah, Piper, who is the daughter of Cassandra and Marty. Piper is 2 years older than him. She's the same age as Delilah. She approaches him in school one day, and she's like, I have great memories of my best friend, and my mother was mean. She made me throw out all her stuff. But, I came across this photo, and I want to show you something. So she pulls out the newspaper photo of Delilah taken a day or two ago, and an old picture of Delilah that they had taken together. She gives it to him and says, "I'm sorry, don't hate me." So basically, and walks away. He looks at the pictures and he realizes that Delilah, little Delilah, 6-year-old Delilah, has a cleft chin. That butt chin. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And apparently he does some research and you find that cannot grow away over time. It stays forever. It's not something that you can grow out of. Right. And current Delilah does not have that cleft chin. So he's like, oh my God, what do I do with this information?
Yeah. Because now he's going to break his dad's heart because his dad just started living. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ugh.
So that happens. Yeah. He's a teenager and that's a heavy choice to make, but you can't let him live the lie. You just can't.
No.
So this ties back to bad policing. So I talked about the bad policing with the knife wounds and stuff. Oh my God. So this woman who is a cop, a detective, is seeing his father. And he calls her the cop lady or whatever he calls her. He doesn't even call her by her name.
Right. He does it. Yeah. He's like, she's using her cop voice. Now she's using her lady voice. Exactly. I was cracking up when I would hear that. Like, that's exactly a kid.
Yes, like, I can't stand it. They are in there doing stuff. So he did not like her very much. And come to find out, they did have a paternity test, as you do when you find a missing child. But she lied about the results of the test. And how it's found out is crazy. So, okay, so clearly Leo takes this to his father. His father is freaking out. He goes to the police station. He demands to see the test. I forgot her name. I wrote it down, but I can't even find it. She's like buried in here somewhere.
I think it's Carmen.
Carmen, yes, it is Carmen.
Yeah.
So Carmen is like, oh, I will look. The rookie guy is kind of like, oh, I can, I'll do it. She like, sit your happy-go-lucky ass down. I will do it, basically. So she goes.
He's like, huh? I have no password. Huh? I'll go find the paperwork.
She's like, sit down and take a seat, sir. So, so she goes off to try to, find the information, and the file's missing. So then she comes back and, they try to log in, and she's like, I can't remember my password. And of course the other cop's like, I got mine. So needless to say, but before she's outed, because she's run out of excuses, she just tells him, look, I've been with you this whole time. I knew how much this meant to you. I was just trying to make you feel better, basically. I'm just going to lie to you. This is your child. Who does that?
Yeah, that kind of lie only probably would last for so long, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it happens. I mean, I would say, that is not stranger than fiction. That kind of stuff does happen.
Yeah. And it reminds me of this TV show that had one season, but it was very good. This kid comes back after being missing, and he was kidnapped. He joins the family. I wish I remembered. I should have looked it up before. And the whole time, one of the siblings is questioning if that's really their brother.
Yeah. I think that was on ABC, wasn't it?
Yeah, and turns out the guy had kidnapped two kids that look very similar. Do you remember that?
Story.
Yes.
I thought that was a good show as well.
Yeah. I was like, oh no. Oh, it's scary. But yeah, so we find out Delilah is not Delilah. She has another name. She has another family. And of course the kid, Max, I think his name was, or something, the kid that was with her at the beginning, and she escapes. And we're all like, oh no, they caught the other kid.
Gus,
thank you, Gus. I'm like, I knew it was 3 letters. So, I feel bad. I'm like, shit, they got Gus. And I'm like, oh my God, don't look back. Come to find out, and I understand. She was down there in the dark for years. She made him up. Her subconscious made him up.
I had a feeling he was imaginary because of...
What tipped you off?
I did. Him always being in the dark. She never saw him.
He never ate.
Yeah, there were a few little things, and I was like, she built, that was something like to protect her, because she needed a support. And maybe because I had an imaginary friend as a kid, so.
You did? Oh.
I did have an imaginary friend. I got rid of my imaginary friend, I think, when I was maybe 2nd grade. And
did they just fade away, or you just yeah.
Yep. They faded away, and now, and when I think about it in retrospect, that was a protective. That was something to protect me from some trauma that I had in my life. So yeah, so I did recognize that, but I was just like, okay, let me keep listening, and especially when they started running, and she lost him, and there was there was just different little things. But
yes. And that, too, is something we've read before. Do you remember the Marsh King's daughter?
You're right.
Yes. She had an imaginary friend.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right. And they kept giving her sage advice.
Yes.
Well, I won't say sage, but yeah.
So I I really felt bad for her, but I felt good that another child wasn't left behind. Because they did end up finding these people, Eddie and Martha Cutter. What a crazy name, too. So they literally kidnapped her, trying to mimic how Delilah was missing, and she had all this, like, she was in the newspaper, she had all this hype around her, but for some reason, did you remember what the girl's real name it was? They said it at the end. Carly. Carly, when she went missing, she didn't have all that fanfare.
Right.
So they were kind of put out that they didn't have like that celebrity of, oh, I kidnapped this girl who's everywhere. So, which was dumb. Like, that reasoning didn't resonate with me at all.
Well, you know what? I thought the same, but then you think about it, like all the criminals who want their name in the paper constantly, so they're calling in the media. You know, you have those ones that do want that notoriety and want that fame of being, you know, I mean, you've heard of those people. They show up at the crime scenes, or as soon as the story is not being mentioned anymore, they kind of like, hey, they forgot about me. Let me go do something else, you know? So then because you do have those kind of people, those narcissists, would that be considered? So, but yeah. And the reason why Delilah thought Josh was her father, because her kidnappers kept showing her that newspaper article or the things on the news saying, this is your father, this is your family. So, you know, I forgot what they call those, false memories. Well, they weren't false memories. They placed these memories in her head.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wrote down something about, quote unquote, Delilah, aka Carly. I wrote down, I thought it was very strange as a teenager, but she was taken at 6, supposedly. Hearing what Delilah's life was like, and then hearing Carly talk about doing calisthenics to keep her muscles up. I'm like, where would you learn that? You're in the dark. You don't have TV. They're not giving you books. Like, what 6-year-old knows about doing calisthenics?
Yeah. Yeah. And
I'm like, something just doesn't...
Didn't add up.
I mean? Yeah.
Now, if she was maybe... Right, because you don't even have freaking gym class in kindergarten. I mean, you have, but you're not doing that kind of stuff. Your gym class in kindergarten is recess.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I mean,
you're right.
I could see her saying, okay, we need to do our exercise or our workout, or maybe not even workout, like another word for movement. But calisthenics seems so like such a big word for someone who is not that educated.
Yeah. Right. Who's been there since, like you said, who's been in that room since you were 6 years old, and you don't have that kind of vocabulary or language, especially if they're not allowing you to read or watch television or communicate. They didn't even communicate with the girl. Yeah. So like you said, to have that kind of vocabulary did not match up.
No. And I mean, the woman would like throw food down the stairs, and then she stopped throwing it down the stairs. She's like, come up here and get it. She slams the door. I'm like, these people are like trash. Like, they probably don't even know what that means.
I'm surprised. Well, at least they fed her, but I'm surprised she made it that long. Because I mean,
they fed her slop. It was basically slop. Yeah. She said, I would rather not eat than eat this. That scene where she's trying to choke that food down because she knows she has to eat it.
Yeah. Ugh.
I was like, oh. Yeah. I felt a little bit. I was like, oh my God.
It was like for her survival. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. I mean, if there's nothing else to eat, you know you have to eat it. You know you can starve to death, but starving to death is very painful.
Yeah. Ugh.
And then that nasty, gross dude bringing you candy and all this other stuff. I'm like, oh my God, what is he going to do? But he never did anything.
Yeah, that we heard of. But
that was on the page.
Yeah, but but it was definitely implied for her to get some candy. You know where you can get more of this from. I'm like, ah.
I know. I was so grossed out.
I was like, thank you, Mary, for leaving that out. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because I didn't need it. We had enough other traumatic things going on. We did not need that. And if it was there, thank you, Mary's editor, for taking it out. If it was there.
Yeah, I was kind of glad where this was the point where he got stabbed with the spoon. Perfect.
Yes. So she takes breaks a spoon. So this is how the girl escapes. Very smart. Like, smart for someone without, I guess that's just that that survival instinct, right? You know you need something to protect yourself, but you don't know what. So she's just, and I mean, how would she know what to call a sharp spoon? Too. Like, she called
it something? Did she call it a shank?
Yes, I think she did. I think.
You know what? I know Leo called it a shank because he's like, she made a sharp thing out of a spoon, and he said, I thought he called it a shank, but
maybe he did.
But yeah.
But she sharpened that thing on this nasty toilet, which I was also eeling all over the place. Like, oh God. But she did it.
But you know what, though? I think, you know, for 11 years, you lived in that filth. So it was, I mean, it felt bad, but she was probably like,
it is what it is.
My life. This is my life.
And she even said, like, at one point, I guess it's a good thing I can't see anything down here anyway. I wouldn't want to see what it looks like. No.
Did you think about the comparison of her and Delilah, you know, in their two bathroom scenes where, you know.
Well, it sounded like Delilah had a nice little porta potty, basically. I mean, she had, you know, it was cleaned out every couple of days. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
She had clothes, she had bedding, she had books.
Yeah.
She was treated well while being held prisoner.
Yeah.
But I do find, like, maybe it was a bit of being treated badly versus being treated well. But Delilah, I'm like, did you even try to escape? Did you even try? And
I think that was mentioned. Well, no, I think, yeah.
I mean, they said there's no point in yelling. There's no point.
Right. Well, and the thing is, too, with those kind of situations, they begin to get, is it Stockholm Syndrome? Where you begin to, because she even mentioned, Kate mentioned, not Kate, but somebody mentioned that Delilah would often, every once in a while, ask about B because she wanted to tell her something. You know, she had developed a kinship with her because, and they say that happens, you know.
But again, I think that's because she was treated well, not badly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But the random thing is, so they burst in there, they finally get in there, and they're like, how? You know, what happened? And she says, B killed my mom. I saw her do it. Like, she never forgot what happened. She remembers. It's not like she's like, I don't know why I'm here. You know what I'm saying? So at 6, she sees this event and she never forgets it. And she's like, I saw her. That's why I'm up here. Very cut and dry. Like, oh, okay, I'm free now. Let's go have some dinner. It was very weird almost, you know?
Very weird. Extremely weird.
She runs out, Daddy! It's the dad. But, like, it's so strange. Like, you haven't seen him physically, like, close to you. You might have seen him once in a while through the window. For 11 years, you don't try to escape. Like, it just seems odd to me. You know that's your family. You know she killed your mother.
Yeah. But, I mean, it was a little room. It was soundproof. There was only, like, one window that she had boarded up. So it was, I mean,
she had a little peephole, basically.
Yeah, so you wonder, like how...
It just seems strange, you know?
Yeah.
Like, she just took to that room and was, I'm here.
Yeah. She's like, I can see my family. I'm okay.
Oh, my God.
Because B was there all the damn time, except for probably, dinner time and bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
So, who's to say?
Mm-hmm. What a mess. So they found 2 missing girls. They found out what happened to both missing women. And all tied back to B, basically.
So, now that we say that, what 3 words would you use to describe this?
Okay, yes. I was excited to do this. Actually, we did this in book club, and I'm like, I'm going to use it. We're going to use it on the podcast. So my 3 words are dark, tense, and well plotted.
Dark, tense,
Tense.
dark, tense, and well plotted. You said 3 words?
Yeah, well plotted is hyphenated. I'm calling it a hyphenated.
You said well plotted?
Yes. So dark is word 1, tense is word 2, and well plotted is word 3.
Tense, well plotted. Okay.
What would you say?
To describe this story?
Mm-hmm.
I struggle. Well, not struggle. I had 3 word phrases. Trust no one.
Mm-hmm.
And B said this at the end of the story. And I was like, this should have been, well, it probably gave too much of it away. One colossal mistake.
Well said.
That just kept going. So, yeah, I do like that. Like that. And my theory didn't come true.
My theory
of what I thought. Let me go back. I wrote it in my notes. B killed Meredith. Delilah walked in, and B had to do something with her. B had a history or knows some seedy folks like Charlotte, the babysitter. I thought Charlotte probably was seedy because of, what was happening with Leo, and we never really knew. Again, another red herring. And she gave Delilah to these seedy people, aka the Cutters. That was one of my theories, but so it was only like half right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Charlotte thing, Charlotte was the babysitter. Apparently there was some 5th grader messing around with a 4-year-old and locked him in the chest outside. And he must have kicked him one day or did some other stuff to him. And the babysitter he never said anything to me. I would know if something happened to him. I'm like, would you though? Would you?
No.
You sound like you got too many kids in your charge. Yeah, you have too many to keep track.
Mm-hmm. And especially if Leo didn't say anything. So the thing is nobody said anything is wrong. Everything's well. Yeah.
I don't know. I personally feel like, and Meredith did ask him when, at bath time, what happened? And he was like, I just can't see myself getting off that easy if I were a kid. I feel like I would have caved and told what happened because I can't imagine my mom would just be like, okay, I guess it could be whatever.
Well, you got to think about it. Well, and I'll just say this because I have 2 boys. And granted, he did freeze up a little bit. I think I would have too questioned him even more. But I think that, again, in this story, during the time when she saw the bruise, I believe, was also during the time when she was getting those text messages.
Oh, she was distracted.
Yeah, she was totally distracted. But him freezing up like that, I would have, before I took him back to I'm not the doctor, but to Charlotte's house to drop him off. Oh, me and Miss Charlotte would have had a nice little conversation because there's no way. Granted, kids do get bruises. They fall, they blew, whatever, they do whatever. But when I ask my child how you got that bruise and you freeze up, that's a red flag. Something's going on, and it's not just a ask. And I believe, no, ma'am, you need to give me more answers. I need more answers. Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about these narrators quickly. Did you have any issues with the audiobook narrators? There were so many.
No, none. I had nope, not a one.
Me neither.
They were enjoyable.
Yeah, they were all good. I mean, I didn't even realize there were so many of them. That's how good they were. And that's how everything flowed together. Yeah. I couldn't even tell there were that many until I was like, oh, I looked at the information. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. And like you were saying too earlier in the story, in our conversation, how we had all these different POVs and the flipping between 11, present and 11 years prior. And it was so smooth. Where, like you said, it could be a bad thing where we're constantly flipping back and forward. But the way she wrote it, the transition was nice and smooth, and the narrators made it even, a better story.
Yes. And like for me, I'll say this. Let's give our ratings. Are you ready to rate it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Should I go first?
Yes, you go first this time.
Okay. So I rated the book 4 out of 5. It was a strong 4. And part of my reasons for that is, one, like, while there were some character flaws and things that I nitpicked about the characters that we talked about during this last, conversation, I still felt like the plot was strong enough. And like I said, I thought it was well plotted, very well. So the author was thinking 10 steps ahead as she was writing this. And it came together. So while, yes, some dumb stuff wasn't done, but the dumb stuff wasn't a part of the plot device, like another book we read.
Right?
Right. So I feel like she gets props for that. And the fast pace of the story, it was once I started, I was grabbed so instantaneously. Basically, I just wanted to find out what the hell happened. I just wanted to know what happened. Yeah. And it was good. And I did not see B coming. I did not see her coming.
No, I didn't either. I gave it 4 stars as well. Besides the plot holes and some of the, the silliness of the dumb female character, she did a great job weaving the story and, those red herrings and all that. But in the end, she wrapped it up. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't even say wrapped it up in a nice, bow, but she brought it together to such a great climax. For mystery lovers, the way she wrapped this up and left us questioning was wonderful.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love where you trick the hell out. Like, who likes being tricked? Us.
I like it, yes.
Mystery, suspense, and thriller lovers.
Yes.
Loved it. I was just like, yes. Because what I thought happened did not happen. I was like, you got me. And I'm happy. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I really did enjoy it. A 4 out of 5 besides, the little nitpicking. I won't even say nitpicking, but, those little things. But it was so minor compared to the plot, all that. So, well done, Miss Kubika. Well done.
Yes. Hats off to you. Good job. We don't get to get too excited about that stuff all the time. So
no.
I'm happy when we can,
Yeah. I know. We were texting each other like, I think we got one. It's been a long time. We need one. We really deserve this. Like, we need something like this in our life. And this was a great summer book. It was really, it was a great summer read.
We kicked off our summer buddy reads with a good one. So yay! Hopefully, this keeps up, and we'll get into our next one, which our next one is Hairpin Bridge by Taylor Adams. Yay! I'm excited. Yes, I feel like he deserves some applause for that because we really liked his first book. So we have, and it could be good or bad, but we have some high expectations.
Yes.
And I'm feeling positive that he will deliver.
Yeah. And you know what I'm looking forward to with Taylor's story versus what we've read, like our last 1, 2, maybe 3, where we've had the dumb female protagonist. We know Mr. Adams' female protagonist is going to be kick-ass.
Oh, yes.
And I'm looking forward to a kick-ass female protagonist.
Yes, me too. I can't wait.
You know what he's... And I'm going to just... Well, I'll bring it up in later about what he kind of mentioned, too, when he he thought of his character, especially, I don't know if he said this one or maybe even the other ones, of how he kind of saw the females besides his girlfriend. He also brought up another description of a character from a movie that he thought of.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll have to remember that. I got to look it up too, because I'll forget the name.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll talk about in the after show, and that is available right now on Patreon. So if you're curious about that and you want to see what else we have to talk about, we have some great stories we're going to share at the end of this, and we're going to just chit chat. So if you want to be a part of that and see us, go on over to Patreon. So thank you so much for tuning in today. We appreciate you for being here. And if you're still listening to the sound of my voice, I really love you for listening to the whole episode. Thank you so much. We will catch you next time. Take care, guys. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.